Hello everyone! So today we are doing a wheel decides my build challenge, and the way that I decided to do this was have the wheel pick the pack for the room. So I went ahead and put a bunch of packs on a wheel. I left out some of the kits that only have like a few items in them and like the clutter kits and stuff, just because obviously you're not going to be able to do very much with that to build a whole room. I did decide to build an evergreen harbor today, mainly because it was one of the worlds left that had an empty lot. There was really no specific reason. This is my build save, so almost all of my lots in Newcrest are taken up, and then a lot of the other empty ones are taken up as well. Obviously, this lot you'll see is not the best lot for scenery, so there definitely was none of that in the thought process. But I go ahead here and I just build the shell. I was going for just a very basic, like family home shell. Um, Once I get all the inside sorted out, I think later in the build I point out what the rooms are. So the way I was trying to do this was I pick the room that I'm going to work on and then I spin the wheel so that I can't spin the wheel and then get like kitchen clutter and then be like, oh, I'm going to build the kitchen. So it definitely was more of a challenge. So here I have the rooms divided. I did go ahead and put in doors and archways, doors for the bedrooms and the bathroom. So now we're spinning the wheel for the exterior of the house, and we ended up landing on pastel pop. And at first, when we landed on this, I was very worried. I was like, oh my gosh, how in the world am I going to, decorate the exterior of a house with pastel pop? It's not meant for that at all. But it actually ended up turning out pretty good, I think. At first I put this color on because I liked it. I thought it was the most like calm color, I guess, not like crazy for an exterior of a house. Um, and I just, as I was like doing the other stuff, like once I started roofing and everything, I felt like it was very plain and I was starting to not like it. And I was like, this was my worry with doing like pastel pop for the exterior because I felt like it wasn't gonna be, and like I either was gonna go super crazy and it was gonna be insane and colorful and full of patterns, or it just wasn't gonna be enough. But then you'll see that I do go back to the wallpapers after, and I was like, I want to, because I was looking at it and I was like, it doesn't look very pastel pop, it's just the pink. So I did go back to the wallpapers and I was like, I wonder if there's any way that I could maybe tie some of the like flowery printed wallpapers in with this house and it wouldn't look bad. And then I did this and I said, oh, it kind of looks good on their roof up there. It gave me very much like dollhouse vibes once I did that, and then I was just like, okay, I was like, yep, this is like the direction that we're going, and we're just gonna make this exterior look like a cute dollhouse that, you'd place in like a kid's room or something. And I did go through, and in a second you'll see I did go through and add just some basic landscaping around the house. And then I also just want to point out that I do cut a lot of parts out of this video, so I'll kind of like start one thing and then I'll cut to when it's done and I'm like working on something else. I did that just so that the video wasn't like, an hour long, because if I didn't cut a bunch of stuff out, it would have been that long. And I think this was my favorite part of the exterior, was actually getting to use the pastel pop furniture because it is just such cute furniture and I love it. And it just provides such like a cozy vibe. And so I like the way that these chairs looked outside. They didn't look like they didn't belong, which was nice because I know that sometimes trying to put like non-outdoor furniture outside can look a little bit funny. Um, so I just really like the way that it all blended together. And I did end up putting that table over there, just kind of some stuff out front. And that finished the exterior. The next room that we end up working on is actually not a room per se, it's the back porch. I thought it would be fun to add that in as a room. So we spun for that and we ended up landing on Enchanted by Nature, which I think paired pretty well with the pastel pop exterior, so I wasn't too upset about it. I was actually excited to use this one. I don't think I've actually done a build with most of the stuff. I think I've used like a few of the items for random things, but I don't think I've actually done a full like fairy build or anything, which I'm definitely interested in. So if you would like to see that, just let me know. I think fairies are awesome. I know we're waiting very long for them, and then we finally got them. But yeah, I decided on the back porch to do this like built-in grill situation. And I thought those mushroom shelves were so cute and that they like really kind of brought the vibe more to life of the Enchanted by Nature. I didn't really want to lean too much into like the fairy thing. But I did, of course, I had to put a fairy house on the porch. I couldn't have used that pack for the outside porch and then not put the fairy house on there. And then after that flower pot, that is our Enchanted by Nature back porch completed. Now, the next room that we work on is the foyer, but really quickly, this is where I show you the room. So that is the foyer. And then over here we have the kitchen and then the living room. And then I want to make this room a kid's room. I think just like a small family home. And then this is our master bedroom, our bathroom, and then an office slash library. So I want to apologize for what the wheel did with this foyer spin. Yeah, we got Strangerville for the foyer. So that was really fun. I When I saw that, I just went, "Oh no." Um, I mean, if you play The Sims, you know what the Strangerville stuff is like. So these were our two wall options. So the first one, not the corrugated metal, the other one, this one. I was like, okay, this obviously looks better to be inside of a house, but I didn't want to like lean too much into like the clinical, like sciency side. So I was like, okay, let's just go full Strangerville. So you can see I did the corrugated metal walls and that like dirty stained tile flooring. But I did find this object, which is like a jukebox, I think, and it is functional. So I was like, okay, well, at least the room will have functionality. You know, your Sims can go and like dance in there. And Strangerville does have some items that are not horrible, I think. I do really like the rug. The rug from Strangerville is really good. But I think for this room, I kind of just went like eclectic, like garage esque stuff. And I did put the fitness machine in there as well because I was like, that's just another functional item that can be used. And it took up space because I didn't really want to put anything else from the pack in there. I did end up putting some of like the random Strangerville items on that table there, but overall, obviously, I don't like it. I don't know if anybody could like it, but I'm not extremely mad about it either. It could have been a lot worse, but now we are on to the bathroom, and the pack that the wheel gave us for the bathroom, I again was like, oh no, we got Comfy Gamer. And I was like, how in the world do you use this pack to furnish a bathroom? But in the end, I think between the kitchen and the bathroom, it's a hard pick for which one is my favorite. The Comfy Gamer Kit did have this cute cubby, and I was like, I think that could work for a bathroom. This is supposed to be like a small family home. They only have one bathroom. Space gets tight, you need a place to put things. So I did like that, and I went ahead and used some of the shelves from the Comfy Gamer kit as well. There are a lot of items in this kit that I really do like. I think that it is a very cute kit. It has a lot of things in it, and I need to build an actual gamer room with this kit. I think it'd be really cute and really fun to do that. But yeah, so I just went ahead, I used the rug. I think I used a good majority of items from the kit. Obviously, I didn't use like the chair and the PC and the headset and stuff like that, but they had little wall signs. Like it had a lot of cute stuff that worked for this little cozy bathroom, I think. And I ended up finding this base game mirror, and I was like so happy about it because I thought it worked so well with the aesthetic of the bathroom. And I just made some like clutter and mess because again, it's supposed to be a small family sharing one bathroom. Um, and And yeah, I just really love the way that this bathroom ended up turning out. I think it's very cute, it's cozy. I love the like colors that are going on with it. It is the base game flooring and wallpaper or tile, I guess. So, but next we moved on to the kitchen, which I think is between that and the bathroom, it was a hard pick for my favorite. We ended up getting Modern Luxe and another one that I was like, ooh, like I love this kit, but how am I going to make this work for a kitchen? And I was actually pleasantly surprised how well it worked. I love these new base game counters. I find myself reaching for these over my CC counters and like other pack counters. And I love the new swatches that they put on these appliances. I think that they really give them like a whole new level. And I think that's what really ended up tying this kit into the kitchen so well was just the color. Like the appliances really helped. Because it was the Modern Luxe kit, I tried to go for just a very like luxury and like upper middle class kitchen. And I think it ended up coming out really well. And as soon as I saw that dresser piece, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. The first thought that came to my mind was a coffee bar. I had thought about just like a bar, and I really wanted to use it's from a different kit, I think, a newer kit, but it's like it's one of those drink trays, but it's like a mixology bar drink tray, and I really wanted to use that, but obviously I can't. Um, so yeah, that was another rule about this challenge I forgot to mention, which I'm sure you guys know, you've probably seen videos like this before, but if you don't have the item that you need for that room in the pack, you just use the base game item. Um, so yeah, I thought that record player was really cute. I think I think there's a kit that I ended up using every single item for in the room. And I think it was the living room. But I definitely used another, like, this was another one that I used a good amount of the items in the kit in the room. But I ended up going with the hot cocoa tray because it's a base game one. And I think it had like the best swatch that fit with the kitchen. I also really, really love that light fixture, and I'm really bad in builds about not putting like specialty light fixtures. I normally just use like those little like $50 like in the ceiling ones that you see right there in the living room. I usually just put those in. I also find it easier. I think it's because of gameplay. I find it easier with gameplay because light fixtures to me get in the way a little bit, especially a bigger one like this. But any time that I get to use them, I love to. I think the kitchen turned out absolutely great. I think it might be my favorite room. Now, like watching this back, I think I do like it better than the bathroom. But now we are on to the living room. And for the living room, we ended up getting the Greenhouse Haven kit. And I wasn't mad. I was like, this is probably going to be pretty easy. But then I did this. I remembered the only flooring is brick. And I was like, well, I'm not putting brick with weeds growing out of it as a living room flooring. But they do have that wallpaper that's like windows. And I was like, oh, that'd be perfect. And I also loved that siding wallpaper. I think that the two work together really well. I think one of my favorite like design combos is definitely like natural wood and black. I'll do that anywhere, any day. My biggest challenge with the living room, weirdly, was the couch and the rug situation. I cut so much of it out, but I probably spent a good like 20 minutes going back and forth with couches and rugs and trying to find ones that looked good together and then that also matched the room. And I was just struggling. I was having a hard time with that. But like I said, this kit, I did end up using every single item from this kit except for in the little bottom left, the like awning attachment thing. I didn't use that. Yeah, you can see I looked and I was like, no, I could have sized it down, but I was like, it wouldn't look right on the interior of a house. So I did leave that one out. But this is the couch that I ended up picking. I did go back and forth with so many, but I did end up going with this one. And the issue was that I wanted to put in an armchair, but of course, the armchair for this couch didn't have a matching swatch. I wanted to use this darker green swatch that the couch is in, but the armchair only had the lighter green option, and it doesn't look bad, but it definitely bothers me. I really wanted to use the darker green, and I think that's why the living room is not one of my favorites. It seems like it's just a silly thing, but it really like threw me off because everything else, like all the plants and stuff, were that darker green, and maybe it does like offset it a little bit, but I really just wanted to use that darker green swatch on the couch, so I was pretty upset when it wasn't available. But either way, I think it turned out pretty well. I liked the vibe of it. And the next room that we were doing is the office library. And for that room, we got Growing Together. And I don't think we could have gotten a better pack for doing an office library. And the main reason is that I absolutely love the Growing Together bookshelves. Um, I like the way that you can make them look built in, and you'll see in a second that that's what I ended up doing. I ended up doing a like corner bookshelf, like built in kind of thing. And I just love the way that it turned out. And I really wanted to use that Growing Together desk in here, but in the end, I just could not find like space for it. I wanted to have more things in this room because Growing Together does have so many like functional family time items. I really wanted to put the games table in here. So I ended up voiding the desk and swapping it out for the like card game table, which you see right there. I think it just worked a lot better. And I also put a rocking chair in there because I love those from Growing Together too. And I ended up putting the card table against the wall, like where the door frame is, but I did that only because it is an archway into the office. It's not a door, so it wouldn't really be blocking it too much. But I went into debug, and I always forget with debug items that like once you place them, they're there, like there's no moving them. So I struggled a little bit with the symbols box that I had put down, but I just ended up deleting it and then redoing it. But um, and then I was like, great, got it to work. I got them where I wanted them. And then I looked and they were floating. So I just ended up taking them out and I put the board games there. And then I got some debug stuff. The symbols that are laying on the table is all debug. If you would like to know how to do any Sims cheats, I can also show you, do like a quick short or a video on that. They're super helpful and they just make building much more like immersive and natural. There's also a lot of items, like especially landscaping is a really big one for debug because all of them end up being free. Um, but yeah, and then I also went and I put in this marriage certificate and the infant handprint because I thought that just really added to like the family vibe of the room. And I just love both of those painting things from Growing Together. So yeah, I really like the way that this room ended up turning out. Very cozy. Like, I feel like I would want to spend time with my family in this room. And the next room that we ended up doing was the kids' room. And I was kind of disappointed with this spin because I wanted to get something like bright and colorful. I really wanted to make it look like a little kid's room, like maybe like a 6, 7-year-old little boy, like very colorful room. But we got Dream Home Decorator. So I looked at the wallpaper for it and I kind of started to get a vibe after I put this wallpaper down. I was thinking, what can I do with green that's not just like basic? And the first thing that came to mind was making him like an outdoorsy kid, somebody like a kid who really loves like the forest and loves like animals and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I can make him like a Boy Scout, and put all of like the Boy Scout stuff in his room. Well, I did that. And I was almost done furnishing the room, and then I realized that 90% of the items that I had put down were from other packs. It was not Dream Home Decorator or Base Game. So I was very upset about that because I really liked the way that it was turning out. So I had just cut all of that out, and then now you're seeing me put Base Game items in as well as the Dream Home Decorator. But I still like the way that this room turned out, and I still tried to keep the same like story for him that he is like a, woodsy kid. It was hard though with the limited options from Base Game, but I think you can kind of tell a little bit. I kind of wanted him to be of like more of like that like in between age. Maybe he was like 10, 11, like leaving kid years, coming into preteen years. So I tried to like keep his room with some kiddish stuff and then trying to add a little bit more like mess, and like he didn't put his clothes away and he's getting into like making stuff. So there's stuff on his desk and stuff like that. And I did put the ribbons on the wall to kind of pay like an homage to him being a Boy Scout. I was very upset when I couldn't follow through with that plan, but and then this is base game. So these items, they are from like special events and stuff, and this is a magnet board, and I didn't end up putting the magnets on it because I kind of just liked the way that it looked without them, but I feel like that helped tie in the woodsy theme, and I think overall it turned out pretty okay. And after I finished this room, the last room to furnish was the master bedroom, which was going to be the parents' bedroom. And the pack for this one really threw me for a loop. It kind of gave me the same mindset as the Strangerville pack because I was like, okay, I can try to like tone this down or I can go all in. And luckily, this one was kind of easier to do a half and half with, and it had stucco. So I was like, okay, that's easy. I can do that. And this room ended up turning out very colorful, and I liked it. It was good. It had lots of patterns. At first, I went simple with the bed because I was still trying to think like, okay, maybe I can tone it down and just like try to pull out all the simple, swatches from this. And then once the rug came into play, I kind of gave up on that and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to lean into this a little bit more. So I also kind of made up like a story to tie it in with the child and how maybe he learned to love like the outdoors and the woods and stuff with doing their room this way and like the artifacts that I put in. I thought maybe they could have been like archaeologists or something or just like well-traveled people, and that's kind of where their son like learned his love for the outdoors and stuff. But yeah, I ended up loving the color scheme of this room as well. The yellows and the oranges and like the brick red. It all tied together very well. And now I'm just adding the finishing touches to the room to really just make sure that there's no like empty spots and to tie everything together. Maybe try to add some more depth to it. But I overall I feel pretty good about the way that this build turned out. Obviously, the rooms are not very cohesive, and that's okay. That's how it's meant to be. It's supposed to, you're supposed to be able to tell that um, each room was a different pack. And I really don't think that I can pick. Like I said, between like the bathroom and the kitchen, I don't think I can pick which one is my favorite. But this build was so fun. I would love to do something like this again. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know which room was your favorite. Maybe we have the same, maybe they're very different, and that would just be really fun to talk about. I also really like seeing the rooms from these angles. I feel like it just adds a new depth to them that you really don't see when you're just kind of like building and looking at it from like a higher angle and stuff. Getting to be down in it is very fun. Makes it look much more realistic as well. Um, and I also really just want to give a special thank you to everybody that has subscribed and liked so far, and everybody that watches my videos. It really means a lot to me. I really just have fun doing this, and I love The Sims, and I know there's other people out there that love The Sims as well. So it's really fun to just have that community where everybody can enjoy time together. So, yeah, thank you for watching.